Here we go, week 4, and the heat is not breaking. We had rain last week, so there was a little bit of a break for the rain, but in general terms, it has just got hotter and hotter. So I'm out here doing this again. I did try, but it's not going to work. The sun is, however, over the yard arm, which means I can break out the supplies. So I am, while I've been out here drinking, on my second bottle of this, which is probably bad news. Yes, I know it's not proper beer, but you know, I wanted something light. Anyway, I actually contemplated whether to do this week because I really didn't have an awful lot to say. But somebody pinged the channel earlier on today, and if I'm honest, and I apologise, I don't think I really understand your question. But what I thought I'd do is I'd go over the whole concept of a foot switch. And by the way, people, if you think you're hearing voices, you probably are, because right below me are 2 young ladies having a conversation. So I normally do this and there's nobody around, and today there are people around, so we'll just have to put up with that. Anyway, the question was all around building a foot switch using tin foil. And as I said, I'm not sure I quite understand the question, because I'm not quite sure what part of the foot switch the individual has built using tin foil. But that was it. He was using tin foil and it didn't work, and then it worked on another keyboard, and I think he was getting himself confused. So I thought, well, what I do is I just go over the basic operation of a foot switch again. So there is my foot switch where this came out of. Okay, standard Roland DP 5 or 6, depending on which one you've bought. But foot is depressed there, and if I spin that around and point that into the camera, can you see that black? So there's a spring there, and then there's a black block there. That black block above the spring is effectively the contact, and that contact is what contacts the actuator on this board. Okay, and a foot switch works in one of 2 ways, depending on what brand of keyboard you have. Okay, it either breaks a circuit or it creates a circuit. What do I mean by that? If it breaks a circuit, effectively there is a small current that is travelling from there to there via the foot switch. When you depress the actuator, i.e. depress the switch, what you are in essence doing is breaking the circuit. So you stop the current moving through here, and because you stops the current moving through, it's alright, I can hear something going on over here, and I've got squirrels behind me in the trees. When you do that, you break the circuit. The keyboard knows you've broken the circuit, and it then actions whatever you've got the foot switch set up to do. So whether that's sustain or whether it's patch change or whatever it happens to be, but that's how it does it. The other way is it creates a circuit. So there is no current. There's current on one of these pins, but because the foot switch is up, the circuit's broken. When you depress it, you create the circuit, as in you make the contacts meet, and therefore current flows. Again, exactly the same idea. The keyboard recognises it, and at that point it then allows or performs the function you've got the switch set to do. Very, very, very simple. Okay, the half damper stuff does it in a slightly different way, but the concept is exactly the same for every foot switch in essence. Okay, and obviously a volume foot switch, they have a variable potentiometer in here which effectively adjusts the resistance and therefore adjusts the current. Again, and that tells the keyboard, you know, more current means more volume, lower current means lower volume. You get the drift. Okay, so going back to the specific question, which was you're using tin foil and you use one keyboard, it works, and one keyboard doesn't work. This is how I understand it. My first question would be, how does the keyboard work? Is the keyboard expecting you to break a circuit, or is the keyboard expecting you to create the circuit? So if you're using tin foil, I suspect what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a circuit, as in you push the 2 contacts together and you create a circuit. If your other keyboard doesn't work that way, is expecting you to break a circuit, then it probably explains why it works on one and doesn't work on the other. Other than that, I think I need a little bit more detail to be able to try and give you a steer, but that's how I understood your question, and therefore that's sort of how I answer it. The second thing I'm going to talk about today is this thing. Now, I showed you me getting this out of the box last week, okay? And I've played with this week. I really haven't given it enough attention this week. I've had other things that I've had to do. I've got other things going on, as you well know if you watch the channel on a regular basis. And I did a video earlier this week. I literally got it out of the box. I stuck it on top of the Oasis. I plugged it in, and I saw what happened. And I was literally in play mode at that point, with it playing chords on the Oasis. Now, I found that while just being able to play through chord progressions and chord sequences on the Oasis with extended ranges and very complex patches was absolutely fantastic. It gave me lots of ideas about how things should hang together, I suspect. And you can change from here, from majors to minors to diminished. I mean, it's got a whole raft of, there you go, you can see all the different chord combinations on this thing. Okay, so you can move from one to the other, and it will effectively send the trigger information to the Oasis, which is what I've done, and the Oasis plays. And then you change the complex sound again, or you can go to a simple sound. The Oasis allows me to do both of those. And you can still play around with it and look at, you know, how to sort of structure the melody, I suppose, is what I'm trying to get to here. I have one criticism of this, and it's only a criticism in so much as what it really needs, Brad, is an on-off switch. I sort of get the whole idea behind it of having cables and 12-volt supply here, so this is currently being powered by a USB supply, but it seriously needs an on-off switch, something that interrupts the power on the board. I think these sockets are, if you're pulling cables in and out quite a lot, I do believe that these sockets are not going to stand a lot of punishment. That's my personal opinion. Other than that, I really do like the whole ethos behind this thing. Now, again, I think it's come to market on the understanding that those of us who've got one of these things now are effectively beta testers, and we're feeding back to Isla Instruments how the thing works and where the bugs are. This has, I mean, I'm on beta version 4.05.06 as the firmware, so that's the operating system, effectively how this thing works. This is at least 2 firmware versions below the current firmware version, so I've got to flash this and do an upgrade on it to get it to the latest version. And every version there's bug fixes and improvements. So this version of the firmware I've got at the moment, I think the sequence, I haven't played with the sequencer by the way, but I think the sequencer in this is not working correctly. Whereas in a later version of the firmware, the sequencer will come on stream. I think 4.8, the sequencer really starts to come on stream. So they're adding bits to the firmware as we go, in essence, until we get to a point where I think they will be happy and the firmware will become release. Okay, so all these firmware releases are effectively beta releases. They're not production releases. And I work in the software industry, so I know a lot about that. But first impressions, brilliant. Needs a power switch. So Brad, if you're doing a Kordbot Mark II, put this power switch on it. The other thing I found the other day, because I spent a long time looking at it, and it's probably because my eyesight is bad and I have to wear bins, is of course that there is down the end there you can see it, there you go, is a SD slot, which I knew there was an SD slot on it, It's just I was struggling to find the SD slot because I was being a bit blind. But hey ho. So there you go, Kordbot update. Really enjoying this as a tool. Highly recommend it if you're writing music and like me, you haven't come from a classically trained background. You're writing music based on what you like to listen to, and I must admit, when I'm writing stuff, I'm probably breaking every single rule there is. But it's really how I like to listen to music and how I like the chord progressions to work, rather than some rule that was invented by somebody 100 years ago. Now, loads of people are going to probably come into there and go, oh no, you can't say that. But that's true. I was never really trained in music. I never went to music school. Everything I learned, I've picked up over the years. So there you go. Anyway, as I said, I didn't really have an awful lot to say, and I've still managed to rant on for 11 minutes. So I'm going to leave you to the rest of your Sunday afternoon. I'm going to put this switch back together, and then I'm probably going to go out for a burger, because I really fancy a burger tonight, and I don't fancy cooking because it's too hot. Okay, take care. I'll see you next time. Bye bye. So this is the point in the video where I turn around to you, my viewer, and say, if you enjoyed the content of this video, please give it a thumbs up. The way the Google and YouTube analytic engines work is that the more likes you get against a video, the more it gets promoted by YouTube and Google, and therefore more people with the similar interests to what you have and I have get to see this content. This channel is driven by my love of music technology. That's what it's called, the Music Tech Guy Thought. If you've got queries, want to ask questions about themes or issues I raise on this channel, please do put your comments into the comment section below the video, and I will try to address whatever issue it is you've raised or whatever question you've raised. If it's something to do with me making future videos in terms of how to do something on a particular piece of equipment I possess, please feel free to say that as well. I can't promise to make videos on all the requests I get, but I do have a jolly good go at making most of them. Around about here is the subscribe button. Again, to do with the YouTube and Google analytic process, the more subscribers the channel gets, the more the channel gets promoted, and the more people get to see the content that you have obviously just watched. If you want to see my latest video, it will be in one of these two boxes on this side of the screen. Also, there is a second box there, and that video will be chosen for you by YouTube based on your YouTube preferences. I look forward to the next time that we interact, and I do mean interact, because I always enjoy reading your comments back to me. But for now, bye bye.